But this is a consequence of such an intense political debate that it focuses on particular things.
Yeah, and don't forget as well, within the British political and media system, once the BBC broadcast the report that they did in May, when the Prime Minister first went there, that really, to a large extent, just completely took over the debate. It was another of the very, very unfortunate consequences of that. So actually there was probably less attention, less focus upon what was then actually happening in Iraq at a media level and a political level than there should have been. And I think meanwhile, those who were getting into Iraq, military and intelligence guys and so forth, but also then those who were trying to restore some kind of civil administration and public service and so forth, they had a tough job. But I tend to agree, not as an expert and not as somebody who knows about it as much as the people on the panel, but I do actually think, I tend to agree with John Saw's assessment that actually, given the circumstances, they did a pretty amazing job getting things up eventually the way that they did.
Well, I think we've pretty much come to the end of this session. Question to you, Mr. Campbell. Have we given you sufficient opportunity to offer us your reflections on the lessons to be learned, real-world lessons from that whole experience?
Real-world
lessons, as opposed to theoretical?
Yeah. I mean, I would just say a couple of points, really. As it is lessons learned, I think... looking from where I am now, which is out of government but obviously still follow things closely and still stay in touch with people, I think I have a sense that we've already learnt some of the wrong lessons in relation to strategic communications. I think when I look at whenever people say in relation to Afghanistan, why we're there, that's a communications issue. I was at a conference organised by the British military recently on Afghanistan, and they seem to think, and there are lots of other military there from other countries there, but they seem to think, post-President Obama's announcement of the 30,000 extra troops, that they've got what they need militarily, but they just kept saying, look, we're not getting the case over. Now that's all that communications is in the end. So I think if I can say, in terms of lessons learned, I really hope that we don't, because of all the controversies, some of which we've talked about today, and because of the events that followed from that, I hope we don't sort of say, let's go back to a very old-fashioned sort of communications that doesn't understand the impact of the way that the media has changed. I mean, 24-hour news, embedded media who are able to communicate right around the world something that they see there and then, so that you see a snapshot here and a snapshot there. The job of political leadership then is to show the big picture and to keep the public, whether it's in America or Britain, in any other country of the world, engaged and involved in that. And then when it is an international crisis, it is to coordinate that internationally. And I hope that the conference that there is on Afghanistan in the near future will look at that and go into that. And the only other thing I would say is that I think it's ultimately you can have, there's a point I've sort of made, you can have all the advisors you want, whether it's people like me or it's the diplomats and the military, and in the end, but ultimately the guys who are elected at the top, they do finally have to make decisions, and I hope that as a result of the totally understandable remaining divisions and difficulties over the policy on Iraq, that we don't put a future generation of leaders in a position where the really, really, really difficult decisions can't be taken.
Thank you. So I'd like to thank our witness, and in particular for agreeing to stay on for a much longer session than we'd originally foreseen, and to thank all of you who've been here in the room, both this morning and this afternoon. I'd like just to say a brief word about tomorrow. We're going to look at other important aspects of the ministerial and official decision-making process on Iraq, and issues of resourcing and the capability of government departments to deliver their policy objectives. We'll be hearing from Dr. Nemat Shafiq, Permanent Secretary at the Department for International Development from 2008 to the end of our period, and from Lord Turnbull, who was Cabinet Secretary 2002 to 2005. And with that, that's a 10 o'clock start tomorrow. I will close today's business. Thank you all very much.